Now, this is the third ABM leader to be killed this year. So let's discuss this matter right now with Thapelo Mohapi of Abahlali Base Mjondolo. Thapelo, thank you so much for your time this morning. First of all, our condolences for your loss. I can imagine just how traumatic it is to have to lose yet another leader within the space of this year alone, the third leader thereof. Can you just kindly just speak to us about what could have potentially led to this gruesome attack on, of course, Lindokuhle, but also more importantly, where does this thing come from?
Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity. Well, first and foremost, we are a movement that is in pain, that is in mourning. Our only crime is actually to fight for the landless, the poorest in this country. And Lindokuhle Mnguni is one of the people who led the occupation and the commune. We have a garden, we have a poultry, we have all that is needed for people to sustain themselves. And instead of doing justice and encouraging this, the leaders in Morena of the ANC, the branch executive committee of the ANC, has led into trying to destroy this commune by actually targeting the leadership of the movement. So there are people who vested interest in that particular piece of land because they want to build houses that they're going to sell. And the community is defying that and saying that we want to create a commune where we can sustain ourselves, where we can create our own food security. And as a result of that, they are facing repression and attacks from the leadership in that particular of the ruling party in that particular area.
So, Thapelo, you're saying that this is essentially a political battle, that, you know, you've got people, as you mentioned, with vested interests. So it's essentially a financial thing, that you guys wanting to fight for the poor, wanting to help the poor, you know, sustain themselves. You are trampling on the toes of those who have financial gain in that particular area. So it's now gotten political.
Yes. I mean, the context probably that has not been told in the media is the fact that the ward councillor, who is now in prison, arrested for having killed one of the candidates, ward councillor in that area, has in fact been responsible for allocating and selling houses that belongs to the poorest of the poor. So there is that mafia style of the ANC in that particular area. And our movement finds itself in the midst of that, because what we are doing is actually encouraging people to use land for their own benefits. There's a high unemployment rate in this country, and young people have occupied this piece of land and created a commune where they are actually if you go there, you will see spinaches, you will see cabbages, you will see chickens, you will see children playing around, you will see an informal settlement that is, where people can actually sustain themselves. There's a soup kitchen where the community itself can actually, everyday children, especially those who are women-headed families, come and eat in the communal kitchen in that area. So that on its own, we are being criticized by the ANC-led government in this province for creating an authority outside of the ANC. Because if you are organizing outside of the ANC, you are regarded as a criminal, you are regarded as somebody who creates a state within a state. And that's what we are being killed for. So Lindokuhle Mnguni, Nokuthula Mabaso, Ayanda Ngila have been a target of such, that if young people are trying to create their own food, they are trying to create their own sustainability as a community, you are faced with, you are being criticized for having created a state within a state. So that's what we are facing for.
Yeah. Thapelo, do you know who within the ANC has got that vested interest in that land within the province? Because that in itself is a significant allegation, but not only an allegation, but if that individual is not brought to book or is not arrested, is not behind bars, then you as an organization do not know when the next person will be. So do you know who within, who's got that vested interest? Do you know, and within vested interest, right, there's always the supplier and then the demander. Who is the one that is demanding this land that clearly there's a need to supply to?
Well, first and foremost, we now know that the killers of Ayanda Ngila and Nokuthula Mabaso are right now being arrested. So there is a pastor who is a member of the ANC, who is known in the ANC in that particular area, who is also a business person who who's been arrested as we speak, is going to be appearing for bail, I think on the 12th of September. So, so there are people, there are names, and of course, we will be bringing and helping the police in trying to bring those who killed Lindokuhle Mnguni to book. But it is information that we are still going to work with the police to try, because we have lost, in fact, trust in the police, because after Lindokuhle Mnguni was gunned down, we had to go and fetch the police in the police station in Kwakito, in Ketomena police station, to actually come and open the case and investigate the scene. And many of our cases in that particular area have not been investigated. And we had to have the intervention of the Human Rights Commission in order for these arrests to be taken. It is unfortunate that the police who are supposed to bring order and peace in that particular area are involved in rendering that place ungovernable. And of course, it has become a war zone, that area where activists have been killed. Remember, in 2014, there was Nkululeko Gwalo who was killed in Kumbela, who was a leader of Abahlali, who was uncovering the corruption that is taking place in that particular area. So there is that motive that those who are uncovering corruption, those who are using land for the benefits of the poor, are targeted and killed.
I just want to, Thapelo, labor on Faith's point about supply and demand, that there is someone who is wanting this land, and therefore there is someone who is supplying it. In, of course, as you're mentioning, the people of the ANC. I would imagine that they're not the ones who want the land. They're the ones who perhaps could be supplying it. So could there be a possibility that business is involved in this, that there's a business person or business people who are the ones who want to do something? And I mean, I want to maybe throw it to development, property development, that perhaps that is what could be the demand for this land that is now getting leaders of Abahlali Base Mjondolo assassinated.
Yes, of course, what has been the argument has been that the land that the Abahlali people have occupied is a land that it was earmarked for development, for low-cost housing, to benefit the poor. But what we know, and as a history in that particular area, is that there is no fair allocation of houses. RDP houses that are being built are sold to middle-class people who are not supposed to benefit from the low-cost housing. There are people who have paid. We know that there are people who are living in informal settlement within the Ward 01 ward who live in shacks, but their homes have been allocated and sold to There are people who can't even speak out because they fear that if they speak out, they will be assassinated and killed. So there are houses. There's a list of people who were supposed to be allocated housing in that particular area who still live in informal settlements because their homes have been sold to middle-class people who do not want to go and follow the procedure of going to the bank and applying for bond and stuff like that. So those are homes that were meant for the poorest of the poor. So there is a crisis in terms of allocating people's homes because those are sold by the branch executive of the ANC, including the ward councillor. So that's what has happened. If you investigate properly, you would see that the ward councillor, who is now in prison, has a lot of flats that he owns within the area that he was renting out. Some have been sold to people who came into that place who were not supposed to be allocated those homes.
Thapelo, very quickly before I let you go, you've had 3 of your leadership that have been assassinated. Is there a fear amongst Abahlali Base Mjondolo that anybody could be next at any time?
We are in hiding. I'm in a safe house as we speak. The deputy president of the movement is also in safe house. We have yesterday removed some of the leaders in that area because they were also a target. But we will be we are calling on the police to investigate this thoroughly, and we are prepared to come to the party and assist the police with the information that we have. But when we gathered some information, we realized that some of the leaders who are now we have removed were also a target. So we have removed them immediately as of yesterday after that, including the girlfriend of the late comrade Lindokuhle Mnguni.